The meeting for the Board of Directors for the Des Moines Public Schools to order for November 7th, 2017. Please take the roll.
Here. Ms. Delagardelle Shelley.
Here.
Ms. Langford.
Here.
Ms. Caldwell Johnson. Ms. Ellsburn.
Here.
Ms. Anderson.
Here.
Mr. Barron.
Here.
The first item on our agenda is approval of the agenda. Are there any special requests to pull anything? Okay. May I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda?
A motion.
Second.
Motion by Anderson, second by Delagardelle Shelley. Please vote. Vote passes 6-0. Our next item of business is approval of the minutes. May I have a motion and a second to approve the October 17th, 2017 minutes?
A motion.
Motion by Natasha Newcomb, second by Ms. Langford. Any discussion or corrections? Please vote. Motion carries 6-0. Next on our agenda is district recognitions, and I will turn it over to Dr. Ahart.
Good evening, board. We have a few different recognitions tonight. First, we often talk about the diversity of our students, from their backgrounds and experiences to their needs and abilities. Students who fall on the autism spectrum add to that diversity, and we have dedicated teachers and staff who work to make sure they have the support needed to succeed in the classroom. One fine example is Ann Krogan. Ann is a behavior strategist for the school district, and last Friday she was presented with the Stephen Say Award for Excellence in Autism Education from the Autism Society of Iowa. The award is bestowed upon someone who has had a positive impact on individuals with autism spectrum disorders and has contributed to the field of work and education. Annie Clow of Smouse Opportunity School nominated Ann for the award. She noted that Ann has impacted the entire school district. The students at DMPS are lucky to be served by Ann, and we as staff have become better by working with her. I'd like to ask Ann to please come forward to say a few words about her outstanding work with autistic students in the district. Ann? There you are.
Well, thank you for this time. I've had mixed feelings about this award and the recognition that's come with it. And while I was honored and delighted to be nominated, my first thought was, why me? And my second thought was, why not others? And I've had the privilege of working for 34 years in this school district. And I encountered my first student with autism at King Elementary. His name was Peter, and that was absolutely the first step that's led me down this really fascinating path, working with students with autism, and now first as a speech-language pathologist, then as an autism strategist, and now as a behavior strategist. But I wouldn't be doing the work I do today without the inspiration and encouragement and training from many other talented colleagues. And so while I have just a little bit of your time, I'd like to tell you about how we support students with autism in Des Moines Public Schools. Right now, we have a team of 4 people. I used to be on that team. I'm no longer doing that. But the team of 4 people is comprised of 3 former special education teachers and a speech-language pathologist. And together, these 4 women are, and I just asked them today, are serving and supporting approximately 245 students with a diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder across 45 buildings in our school district. Their responsibilities range from conducting an initial assessment to determine if a student's behavior meets the criteria for an educational diagnosis of autism, to assisting students as they transition out of the school system. In addition to those duties, they provide ongoing support to teachers, and they model evidence-based interventions, they coach educational staff, they create materials, and they assist with setting up new classrooms. And in addition to this year, they're developing a new training module. After 20 years of partnering with the Heartland Area Education Agency, they've been charged with developing a training system that's Des Moines specific. So I cannot, without integrity, accept and celebrate this reward or this honor that I've had without also celebrating all the people that I've got to share this experience with. I continue to learn from these people and continue to feel absolutely blessed to do this work here for the students in Des Moines schools. So I thank you for your time.
At Des Moines Public Schools, we serve some 2,000 students in our early childhood programs. To put that in perspective, that is more than the total enrollment at 285 school districts in Iowa. So it goes without saying that, as our early childhood administrator, Susie Guest, has a big job. But it's a job in which her expertise and great work has earned her the admiration and respect of people in our community and across the state who care about our youngest students. And so it's only fitting, since our last board meeting, the Iowa School Social Workers Association has presented Susie with their Friend of Children Award. When Susie was nominated for this award, many people sang her praises. One was board member Cindy Ellsburn, who noted that Susie works to influence and advocate for policy change to positively impact not only our preschool programs at Des Moines Public Schools, but for programs across the state of Iowa, and especially those serving children living in poverty. Susie, if you would please join me and share a little bit about what this represents about our early childhood work in Des Moines Public Schools. Congratulations.
Thank you, Tom. I am honored to be the recipient of the award and to be acknowledged by the Iowa School Social Worker Association. It's always been my belief that education is just not about curriculum. It's just not about the academics. It's about the whole child. And that covers all domains of learning, including social emotional learning. And that's where the school social workers and our family support programs are so very important to our kids. And so I've worked hard over 33 years with the district to try to provide those support services for our kids, maybe when there's not funding for those, but I've looked for different ways to provide those services. And so I'd like to thank actually two of the early childhood school social workers, Tracy Campo-Westergaard and Heidi Valdez, who nominated me. And I received the award probably 2 Fridays ago at the annual conference, their annual conference. And along with that, I received the letters that were written recommending me. And to be quite honest, I was overwhelmed with the kind words and actually humbled by your sentiments that you had written. So with that, I would like to thank all of you who wrote letters and who have supported me for your faith in me. And also, I'd like to thank the board for your support of me over the last 33 years to enable me to do my job the very best that I can. So thank you.
And one more. As you may recall, a photograph by our communications director, Phil Rader, was displayed by the Aperture Foundation Gallery in New York City this summer. The photo was from an event for new immigrant and refugee families organized by our ELL staff. That image is now in California, where it is part of the 2017 International Juried Exhibition at the Center for Photographic Art. The photo is one of just 45 on display from more than 2,000 that were considered. And this weekend, the National Gallery of Art curator who organized the exhibit presented Phil's photo with an honorable mention award, making it one of the top 8 images in the show. Congratulations to Phil and our entire communications team, whose work is regularly recognized for its excellence. This is a good example of the diverse talent and skills our staff bring to their work each and every day. And I also, just especially in light of this photo, Phil and his team actually do an excellent job of lifting up the work that all of our staff do for some of the most disadvantaged people in our community. And so this is just a wonderful testament to that. Phil, do you want to come up and share a few words about the work?
Yeah, this was a real surprise because there were real photographers in this exhibit, and then I was there. So, yeah, I think it speaks. It speaks well, I think, to the fact that our work here cuts across so many different disciplines and can be recognized as being good work in so many different ways. And as I mentioned out there, I hope in a small way that maybe this photo and the fact that it's been kind of on a national stage helps to underscore that the challenges that new immigrants and refugee families are facing, especially in the current climate, aren't limited to places you think they would be. They're here in Des Moines, they're across the country, and we see a lot of dramatic images in recent years of people putting their lives at peril to seek a new life. And I think sometimes maybe we forget about, once they arrive somewhere, what the challenge doesn't end. So I hope this kind of looks at the quiet, more quiet, subtle side of some of what our immigrant and refugees face here in this community that's mirrored across the country. So it was just a really great honor and a great to have the opportunity to do this work for the district and the community. So thanks. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Our next item will be the consent agenda. And I want to remind the audience that we allow any person the opportunity to speak to the board for 5 minutes following the presentation of an agenda item. If anyone wishes to speak to the agenda item, please go to the information table to sign up. Remarks must be germane to the agenda, and we ask that you avoid reference to personalities and character attacks, as those types of comments serve no productive purpose. As a reminder to the board and public, the board will not engage in discussion or deliberation with a speaker regarding comments made to agenda items. Discussion and deliberation will remain among the board members at the board table, with speakers' comments informing said discussion, deliberation, and determination as deemed necessary. We appreciate your input. Ms. Langford, would you please make the motion for the consent items?
Yes, I move that the board approve the consent items in accordance with the recommended action for each item on the consent agenda, including bills previously authorized, certified, and approved for payment by the board secretary in the amount of $5,746,218.24, and procurement card transactions in the amount of $920,500.29.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Please vote. Consent items are approved 6-0. Okay, next on the agenda, we have 2 public hearings. I'll call the first public hearing to order on item E1A, for classroom addition and gym at Jackson Elementary School. Is there anyone wishing to speak to the item? Hearing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Superintendent Ahart, would you please introduce the matter?
I recommend the board review and approve the proposed plans and specifications prepared by Studio Melee for the 4-classroom addition and gymnasium addition at Jackson Elementary School following the public hearing.
Okay, and Mr. Good, once you're ready, I'll have you take over and introduce your guests.
Okay, thank you. I'm Cindy Whistler, and I'm the principal at Jackson Elementary, and I'm here representing the community of Jackson Elementary, so I want to thank you for your time tonight, hearing about some of the exciting things that are going to be happening this spring at Jackson. So thank you for your time. I would like to introduce, next to me is Jamie Malloy, and he's from Studio Melee, and he's going to talk about some of the things that will be going on at Jackson this spring. So, okay?
All right, thank you. Thanks, Bill and Cindy. Thank you, members of the school board. We're really excited to be engaged by the district in working on the design for the classroom and gym addition at Jackson. see if I can get this to go forward. You have in front of you the site plan. Basically, a little overview. North is essentially up on the plan. Jackson Elementary is on the north side of Indianola Avenue. When we were engaged by the district, we looked at several different ideas for putting a classroom and gymnasium addition on the building. Several different schemes with multiple additions on different sides of the building. The final solution was located on the southeast side of the building and acts as a connector for both the primary and intermediate students in the building. The placement allowed for an expanded playground area to the north of the addition, and it created a public entrance on the southeast corner for after-hours use, which is conveniently located off the drop-off area that was recently redone. Basically, the floor plan of the building, it's a 12,000 square foot addition, includes 4 classrooms, gymnasium, and support space. The classrooms and the gym are built to district standards, similar to the other classrooms and gymnasiums being built right now. As I mentioned, there's 2 connectors, one hallway to the intermediate part of the school, the other to the primary side. The building is fully ADA accessible, and with Des Moines Schools' national recognition for energy efficiency, the project is designed to those high standards. It's tied into the existing geothermal system that was installed with the last project several years ago, so state-of-the-art and highly energy efficient. This is a look at the exterior elevations of the building. The top is the west elevation, the classrooms to the left, the gym to the right. The building's primarily constructed out of architectural precast concrete with some masonry. It's economical, it's durable and low maintenance, going to be a long-term value to the district. The connections at each end are designed with materials and some color to reflect the wings they connect to. And we studied the natural light closely to bring natural light into all spaces of the building, including the gymnasium, with some windows on the south.
Okay, so now you get to listen to me too again. I get to highlight some of the educational things that we looked at. I was very involved in these meetings earlier in the year, and basically we picked out 5-6 things that really are educationally important for this edition. One, this edition will give us the ability to reduce student enrollment at some of our larger elementary schools, because what it does is it makes our building a 4-section building. When I first came to Jackson, we were a 3-section building. However, the last few years, our population has boomed in our neighborhood, and I've had 2 additional classrooms. So I've had 2 sections where we've been 4, like right now I have 4 first grade classes and 4 fourth grade classes, and the rest are 3. But with this addition, we will be a 4-section building, K-5, allowing more of our neighborhood students to be able to attend our school this next year. So we're very excited about that. Also, with the advantages of having a gymnasium added so that we can have a cafeteria and a gymnasium, it allows us to be more flexible with our master schedule, therefore meeting more of being able to easier meet and think outside the box with our schedule to meet the district goals, and allowing our teachers to collaborate, being able to work on our conditions with some more time in the morning for students like restorative circles and things like that. So right now our schedule is pretty tight because our gym has to close down because we have to serve lunch in there. Also, Jamie talked about the student flow. We looked at several different options, and this option really gave us really nice flow to be able to connect our primary students and our intermediate students to the new space that's being built. Therefore, students are in classrooms longer, learning rather than moving from one space to another. So that flow is very, very important to me. And then also, our just community is so excited, our PTA, our students, because they're kind of moving our playground around right now. They are just so excited about these new spaces. My fifth graders are wishing they could come back next year, but I keep telling them they can come back and visit and see the spaces. But everybody's very, very excited about the opportunities for these new spaces. It's just going to be awesome, so thank you.
As you see in front of you, this is the timeline that we have for this project, obviously beginning with tonight. Should the board approve it, we'll be starting construction as early as we can in the spring, and we're looking at an August 15th completion. The estimated budget at this time is $3 million, and this is a year 3 of our statewide penny plan. Okay, at this point, any questions or comments? We'll certainly answer what we can.
Does anybody have any questions? All right.
Tom, I think I had asked this before, but can you remind me? So we'd be adding 4 additional classrooms, so that's 4 additional teachers and supply, just the peripherals that go along with the physical building instruction, I guess is what I'm asking. I think you answered this. Can you just remind me?
Yeah, it's a little bit more complicated than just adding 4 classrooms, because what we're doing is we're attempting to keep our students as close to their neighborhood school as possible. So at this point in time, until we have that open, I can't really say if there will be a transfer of FTEs from an existing building over to Jackson or not.
Okay.
But
I'm sure you'll keep us updated kind of
Yeah,
on that. Okay.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Anyone else? Okay, may I have a motion and a second to approve the proposed plans and specifications for Jackson Elementary School?
I'll move approval.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Please vote.
Good job, thank you.
Motion passes 6-0. Okay, and I will call the second public hearing to order on item E2, a multipurpose room addition and elevator addition at Coles Montessori School. Is there anyone wishing to speak to this item? Hearing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Superintendent Ahart, would you please introduce the matter?
I recommend the board review and approve the proposed plans and specifications prepared by Wells Plus Associates for the multipurpose addition and elevator addition to Coles Montessori School following the public hearing.
Okay, Mr. Good.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board and Superintendent Ahart. My name is Todd Johnson. I have the privilege and honor to be the principal at Coles Montessori School. This school year, we'll be celebrating our 25th anniversary of Montessori education in the Des Moines Public School District. Montessori began as a one-room preschool in Des Moines 25 years ago, has now grown into a pre-K through 8th grade program at Coles, serving nearly 400 students. As you know, we are the only public Montessori school in the state of Iowa currently. I'm very excited for this opportunity to add a new addition to deepen our connection for students, parents, families, and community members to meet the Montessori outcomes for students. At this time, I'd like to introduce Doug Wells from Wells and Associates to discuss the addition and renovations.
Thank you. I'm Doug Wells from Wells and Associates, and we want to thank you for the opportunity to work with the district. We're a Des Moines firm and are really pleased to be part of this project. I'd like to start with the site plan, which we have up on the screen right now. And to begin with, in the very southeast corner of the property is College and 64th Street, where the entrance of the school is, right where the cursor is. There are 2 major components to the project. One is to make the building fully accessible through a new elevator that will connect 3 levels of the building. Currently, the original building located on the east side was a 1-story building, and then as we moved to the west, where the elevator is located, the next phase of the original project was a 2-story building, and it was built on a split level. So we have 3 different levels that aren't accessible. We were able to insert an elevator in that location and have all the levels accessible in the normal flow of the school. And then a larger part of the project is the construction of a new music room that is in association with a new gymnasium. And kind of very importantly, the placement of this addition creates a courtyard on the north side where this playground that is shown is to be relocated. And then as we look at the interior of the building, on the right-hand side of the image, you can see the blue square indicates the elevator, and it is on the first level adjacent to the library. And currently there's a corridor that runs through the right-hand side of the library, and that's being eliminated, so the library is able to be expanded, and it's greatly improving that space. Then the elevator accesses the main circulation corridor and makes all portions of the building accessible. Then to the new addition to the west, we have a new gymnasium, and the new music room is centered on the gymnasium, on the south wall of the gymnasium, and so the new music room will be able to open up to the gymnasium and serve as a stage. So we end up with a large complex where programs can occur and where seating can occur in the gymnasium. So I think it adds some great opportunities for multi-purpose use. And then associated with the music room are new restrooms. We have a accessible restroom, and then 2 boys and girls restrooms. And then looking at the exterior of the building, this is an image if you were on the site and looking towards the northeast. On the right-hand side, you can see the existing school, 2-story element, and then in the foreground is the new portion, the block that is the restrooms, and then the beige color material would represent where the music room is. Then beyond that is the gymnasium. And so we're matching the brick. We have a very close brick match, so it will blend and tie the components of the building together. And then the beige block material matches the limestone that's on the front entrance of the building. So it's really an important architectural goal that when we're complete with this project, it looks like a well-coordinated ensemble, and it also hopefully looks like it was always part of it and not an addition. So we're very excited to be part of this project. Thank you.
I would add that I looked through our list of buildings recently, and this is the last one that's getting an elevator. So all of our buildings that are multi-story now do have elevators. Again, we incorporate as we go. I guess somebody had to be first and somebody had to be last. But again, that's just one thing that from an accessibility standpoint that is very important. So, Todd?
Yeah. This new addition brings much-needed logistical and community-based needs for our school. Right now, we have a cafeteria that dubs as our gymnasium as well. So having a separate gym and cafeteria would open our master calendar. It would increase related arts programming that we don't currently have. Music would have a more appropriate space. We would be able to host performances for music, band, and orchestra. And we would be able to meet the expanding interest in music, band, and orchestra that we have, as well as jazz band. Having the elevator will help with the ADA regulations that we don't have. That's important for our students, parents, and community members to access all levels of our building. To go back to the addition of the music and the gym space, community ed involvement's very large at our school. We have drama tykes, partners in dance, Spanish, just to name a few. We have lots of city permits for people renting our space while school isn't in use. So it would just give a lot and add to the richness of our community that we have currently. The new learning space could also help with our Montessori work cycle. That's scientifically proven to prepare students academically and for the global community. And then some examples of that would be we have STEM grants that we could use the gymnasium or multi-purpose room for maker spaces. And then we could do some Montessori-based ceremonies such as a peace assembly that go along with our Montessori outcomes. Bill, I believe, will now share the timeline for the new addition.
Yes, very similar to the last project. We'll be jumping back and forth across town inspecting these. So again, we'll be starting as soon as we can in the spring, and with the hopeful completion by the time school starts. Again, the budget estimate was $3 million. And again, this is year 3 of our 5-year statewide penny plan. One thing that we used to do in the past, we've had so many of these kinds of projects, is again, we need to remind everyone that our voters in our community have stepped up and helped us move forward in the improvement of opportunities for our kids. So with that, if you have any questions or comments, all the questions will go to Todd, and we'll just sit here and admire them, yeah.
All right. Anybody, questions? Okay. May I have a motion and a second to approve the proposed plans and specifications for Coles Montessori School?
Good job. Thank you.
Okay, we do have a motion and a second on the floor. Please vote. Motion passes 6-0. Our next agenda item is item F1, open enrollment late applications for denial. Superintendent Ahart, would you please introduce the item?
Yes, this is pretty much a standing item at most of our board meetings by state code. The open enrollment period has state mandated deadlines. If people miss that deadline, they can appeal that decision. For special needs circumstances, our team reviews those appeals and grants them based on particular hardship guidelines. And what you see before you this evening are those that, since our last board meeting, have been made and denied.
Okay, thank you. We do not have any speakers to this item, so may I have a motion and a second to deny the open enrollment late applications in accordance with state law and district policy? Thank you. Second? Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the board? All right, we have a motion and a second to deny the late applications. Please vote. All right, motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Our next agenda item is item F2, Comprehensive Annual Financial Report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2017. Dr. Ahart, would you please introduce the matter?
Yeah, so tonight we're going to review the comprehensive annual financial report, and we have some help in addition to Thomas Harper, our CFO, a couple of representatives from RSM. I want to just give kudos to Thomas and his team. Nick is out there. Those of you who have been on the board for a while recognize that we keep giving this report earlier and earlier and earlier, and that's a tribute to just better systems and more timely addressing of what's really a really important document for us, especially as we move into planning for next year's budget. So it really puts us and the board in a much better position than we had been in the past to have much more clarity about what our the hard facts of our financial circumstances are. And once again, it's an outstanding report. So I'll turn it over to Thomas.
Good evening. I would just like to say a couple of things. Throughout the year, you get a number of monitoring reports. And if you look at in the background there, you see additional information there. In this report that you can hear from the auditors, basically, kind of impact 2.0, which is general executive constraints, if you know what those are.
I do.
Okay. 2.4, the one you get every quarter, the financial conditions and activities. 2.5, asset protection. 2.6, financial planning and budgeting. And 2.8, compensation and benefits. So you get those monthly reports from me on an annual basis, and what the CAFR do is actually provide further evidence, if you want to think about it that way, that support what we report to you on an annual basis and also throughout the year. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the folks at RSM, and they will give you their report. Right.
Thank you, Thomas. Good evening. We're here to, as Thomas mentioned, go through the results from the fiscal year 2017 audit. We have met with the audit committee and gone through these reports in a lot of detail and answered all of their questions. So we're here tonight just to go through a brief overview of the results from the audit. Sorry, I guess I didn't introduce myself. My name is Kevin Smith. I'm with RSM. I've got Andrew Steckel here with me, who's a manager at RSM as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Andrew to go through this brief presentation.
Thanks, Kevin. Well, once again, thanks for the opportunity to speak to you tonight and go over the results of our audit. Auditing standards require that we go over certain communications that we're required to make to the board annually related to our audit. So the first part of our slides kind of goes through some of those main key points. The first thing to note is that we were engaged to perform an audit in accordance with government auditing standards, and we have an unmodified opinion on the financial statements this year, which is the highest level of assurance that we can give. It's a clean opinion. We meet with management and the audit committee to plan the audit before we start the audit, and there were no changes to that planned approach as a result of anything we encountered during our audit. There were two new accounting standards that applied to the district that were implemented that had an impact on the report that you have. The one of those would be GASB Statement 75 relates to the accounting and disclosures related to the post-employment benefits other than pensions that are offered by the district. The impact of that implementation and kind of the expanded disclosures around that are in Note 10 of the financial statements. That was actually an early adoption, so that wasn't required to be implemented until next year, but the district being as proactive as they are, decided to implement that this year. The other one is GASB Statement 77 related to tax abatement disclosures. That is in Note 11 of the report that you have before you. Moving to the next slide. Regarding judgments and estimates and policies, this is just a summary of some of significant estimates that the district has. Depreciable life of useful assets and fair value of investments, the accrual for self-insured liabilities. The other two that are significant would be the actuarial assumptions that go into computing the liabilities related to post-employment benefits and pensions. And then a summary of all of the accounting policies are in Note 1 of the financial statements. There were 3 audit adjustments identified during the year, and those were subsequently adjusted in the financials, so they are reflected in the report that was finalized, primarily related to the general fund recording of a technology contract that was actually related to 2018. Another adjustment was an allocation of property tax receipts among various funds. And then there was an adjustment to reclassify some expenditures between the general fund and the capital projects fund based on something that the state identified during their review of the 2016 CAR that had been submitted. Uncorrected misstatements, these would be items that were identified that are not reflected in the audit report. And this actually corresponds to an audit adjustment because the reclassification entry that was booked relates to the 2016 CAR. It has an impact on last year and this year. But the important thing to note would be that that adjustment has no impact on the ending fund balance of the general fund or the capital projects fund, that it's been corrected so that going forward there's no impact. There were no disagreements with management or significant issues that arose from the audit. We are not aware of any other accountants that were consulted as part of the audit, and we didn't identify any significant or unusual transactions as related to our audit. There's a board communication that is issued as part of our audit that includes the representation letter as well as kind of a summary of what's presented in these slides, as well as a control letter. So those are something that was made available to the audit committee and should have been provided to you as well. With that, I'm going to pass it to Kevin to discuss some of the results of our compliance reporting.
Thanks, Andrew. Andrew mentioned he's been talking about the financial statements and giving the results of our audit over the financial statements, which was an unmodified or a clean opinion. The second portion of our audit really focuses on compliance with federal grants and state compliance. And so this year, which is it's called referred to as the single audit. So this slide here gives the results of our single audit work. There are certain programs that we test each year. There were 5 major programs that were tested as a part of our audit this year. They're listed here on the slide. These grants accounted for about 48% of the total federal funding that the district received in 2017. And each of these programs did receive an unmodified or a clean opinion. And there were no instances of noncompliance to report on any of these programs. And then the last slide here, if I can get it to change, just shows a history of the district's single audit for about the past 9 years. There are certain types of findings that get reported as a part of the audit. The most significant are the material weaknesses, second to significant deficiencies. So those are the types of findings that, as a board, you don't want to see reported. Some of the other items there, the instances of noncompliance, those are really compliance findings that come up as a part of our grant testing, but don't rise to the level of a material instance of noncompliance. And so even though there were some findings in the past, that doesn't mean they were not clean opinions on those programs. But you can certainly see from 2009 through today that there's been a slow decline in even those findings. In the past couple of years, there's only been a few immaterial findings reported to you, and in 2017 there were none of those reported. And that, I believe, concludes our presentation. So we'd be happy to go through any questions that you have at this time.
Okay, before we do that, may I have a motion and a second to approve the comprehensive annual financial report for fiscal year ended June 30, 2017? Thank you. Thank you. All right, any questions or comments from the board?
I'm so enthusiastic about the audit committee that I just cannot sit idly by and let a report go by without mentioning that I believe it was GASB 75 about which basically tells us the amount of revenue lost annually through tax increment financing to the district. Annually, we lose $4 million a year in revenue because of tax increment financing done by our city, which is basically for economic development purposes. The city cuts a deal with a developer to allow them in certain areas to not have to, or to get rebated their local property taxes. And as a result, we lose $4 million a year, which was my takeaway from sitting in on my first audit committee meeting, and I think is noteworthy for my colleagues as we face a tough budget year. It's not an item that's within our control, but it is something that we need to be very savvy of as we interact with our city council colleagues.
Thank you for noting that. Any other comments or questions?
I have a question, and it might be silly, but you referred to some acronyms. I know all of our professions have lots of acronyms and jargon. When you talk about CAR, we tried to do a Control F in the report and couldn't find it. Can you tell us what that is?
Yes, that's the certified annual report.
Annual report, yeah.
That gets filed with the Department of Education. And so that's different than this report. This is the audited financial statements. That's something that's submitted to the state on an annual basis at the fund level, but it is reviewed by the state each year. And so they had identified something that, based on the nature of the expense, they actually thought it qualified to have used statewide penny funds as opposed to general fund dollars, and that was the reason for the reclassification.
Anyone else?
I would just like to say, as electrifying as this presentation was, thank you too. I know that this isn't something that excites too many people, but if people truly appreciated what's contained in this report, it reflects so amazingly on Thomas and Nick and their entire team. A budget this size with an audit this clean, and they've been just doing that consistently year over year over year, is no small feat, and they're doing it with fewer people than they were 5 years ago, and they're doing it in less time. And one thing that I always appreciate hearing from our audit team is that they find our team very cooperative and easy to work with, well organized, and it helps them get the job done more easily as well. So I just want to recognize Thomas and his team, because this is impressive, and it puts us on, you notice this when you don't have it, but it puts us on such a solid foundation on which to execute all of the work that we do directly on behalf of our students. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay, we do have a motion and a second on the floor. Please vote. Motion passes 6-0. Next item on our agenda, we have information items. I want to point out the items submitted for board awareness: upcoming schedule repairs for various schools, preliminary plans for various school improvement projects, specifically Hubble and McCombs, Legislative Education and Advocacy Committee meeting notes, the Head Start Policy Committee minutes from September 2017. So if any board members have any questions, you can contact the appropriate individuals. And then next on the agenda is Chair's report. I'll just mention that I am sitting in for Terry Caldwell Johnson because she had a conflict this evening and was not able to attend. A couple things to point out. Did you have that, Heather, on the legislative issues for the legislative team? Okay, I'm sorry. We do have the Community Legislative Action Team. We have a couple dates coming up, tentatively December 9th for a kickoff meeting to invite anyone and everyone who's interested in being part of that team to help advocate for things such as the extension of the sunset on the statewide penny, which you heard pays for a number of much-needed projects in our district. So look for that information to come to you. And then Legislative Advocacy Day is being planned on the Hill for us to go and advocate on February 21st, I believe. And so also be watching for more information on that. And I will turn it over to Superintendent Ahart.
Thank you. Yeah, I would just, this is a great time, as especially since hopefully everyone voted today in their local city council and mayoral elections. This is a good time to remember that our legislative session for 2018 for the Iowa legislature starts in January. So the time for us to be really active in reaching out to our legislators and helping them understand our concerns, our needs, and getting those top on their agenda before the session starts. The time is ripe right now. So I'm very excited that our board legislative team is actively engaging with our community and setting up meetings with our local representatives and senators. And for this to be effective in regards to the school district, we really need as many people in our community as are willing and able to reach out and let our legislators know where our values are and where they need to be focusing their support.
Thank you. With no other business, I'll adjourn the regular meeting of the board for November 7th, 2017. We'll have a very, very, very short break and then begin our work session. So just a couple minutes if that works, so we can keep moving.